It was one of the scariest stories in U.S. history because it literally had millions of people, including me, this reporter, wondering if somebody was about to shoot and kill them. It came to be known as the D.C. sniper case, where a man and his accomplice, a 17-year-old boy, would go around the D.C. area literally randomly shooting and killing innocent people. People were afraid to go outside and would literally serpentine or run to their cars all over the place. I was a reporter at the time working for CNN. I was doing my show and my reports live from the D.C. area. I remember thinking that at any moment this killer was going to shoot and kill me or one of my colleagues. It was really, really creepy. You have no idea. Those of you who were living in D.C. or remember the area, you probably do. Well, they finally caught this guy, right? His name was John Allen Muhammad, I believe, and he was executed. But his accomplice got life in prison without parole. Tonight, the Supreme Court is saying that sentence, because he was a minor at the time, may need to be reconsidered. Here now, Michele Greenstein. She's been following the story all day. This is interesting. This young man, 17 years old at the time, and now the Supreme Court is saying, you know, maybe life in prison without parole is not a fair sentence. What's going on?
Exactly. Even though criminal trials in Maryland and Virginia sentenced him, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear this appeal because he was 17 at the time. This is because the Supreme Court ruled in 2012 and 2016 that the Eighth Amendment prohibits life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for people under 18 for the great majority of juvenile offenders. Only if the rare offender whose crime reflects what they call irreparable corruption can be sentenced like this. Now, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals essentially is granting Malvo this new sentencing, and this was a correct application of these 2012 and 2016 cases. But the chief warden of prisons in Virginia is basically saying the Supreme Court should change the Court of Appeals decision, which is why the Supreme Court is deciding to hear it now.
So this dude, Muhammad, was essentially like his dad, right? Or at least his guardian, the guy he respected, the guy he would follow to the ends of the earth. And the argument could be made that if you take a young, impressionable person and 16, 17 years old, you could just about get him to do anything, and that may have been what happened. It doesn't mean he's not guilty,
right.
But...
Well, there are two important points I want to make here. One, yes, this child was actually physically abused and largely abandoned in his childhood in both Antigua and Jamaica, so a very impressionable person. And actually, Malvo said that Muhammad, in 2012, he came out to the Today Show and said that he was actually sexually abused by Williams now, who would become Muhammad. Now, of course, this could be him just trying to, get resentenced, but that is something to consider. But this figure, Muhammad, who actually was born Williams, he changed his name when he joined the army, is actually a very interesting case. He only converted to Islam in 1985, like I said, the same year he joined the army. But despite Washington Post and like a lot of corporate media outlets calling him, homeless, a degenerate, like a failure, the Washington Post actually called him a serial loser. He actually had a lot of money all the time, very curiously, money to travel back and forth to the Caribbean. He actually had a successful document forgery company in the Caribbean, and according to the government of Antigua, he actually made over $60,000 selling forged U.S. IDs. And really
this
weird.
Is Muhammad you're talking about.
Exactly,
right, yeah.
who was Williams at the time.
The adult, right.
The adult, the 42, I believe, year old man when he committed these sniper incidents. Now, he would actually fly his clients to the U.S., to points of entry. So at the very least, this man with ties to the CIA and actually ties to special forces, at the very least, his time in the army, the army is...
Yeah, it made him crazy.
Right. At the very least, this army that can glorify violence, kind of a haven for alienated people, formed who would become. And at the worst, we actually have the possibility of government involvement.
Wow. I'll tell you, it was a crazy time.
I bet. I mean, you were reporting on the ground. I feel like the fear was unprecedented.
I was in my hotel, and I literally would run frightened to the place where we did our live shots from, where CNN had gotten a canopy so that we couldn't be seen. But you still had to get there. And I remember just...
Just a year after 9/11, I bet, it was wild.
It was a scary, scary time in America. Good stuff.
Sure.
Good report. I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV. I'll see you there.